Hello friends, welcome to another video of Zeta Axis, and today we are going to discuss major soil types of India, in which we will discuss alluvial soil, red soil, black soil, laterite soil, saline and alkaline soil and peaty soil. So here is the major soil types across India. This is a very simplified diagram that we see in our NCERTs, and this is a little complicated, the actual distribution of soil. So here you can see that there is well-defined margin between the black soil and the red soil. But here you will see that the margin is much more blurred. You can see that there are regions in the red soil where we have black soil. However, we will use this map to study because this is a little too complicated. So if we see this distribution of soil and compare it with the major physical divisions of India, then we can see that each type of soil is actually restricted to one physical division. Here we can see this is the alluvial soil. We can see that here is the Gangetic plains. This whole region can be seen as alluvial soil. We can see that there is this green color in this whole eastern coastal plains. So all of this is alluvial soil. Now if we see, this is our Indo-Ganga-Brahmaputra plains. They extend right from Gujarat to here Punjab, and then they go right up till Arunachal Pradesh. So it is the Indo-Gangetic plains which has alluvial soil, and along with the eastern coastal plains, because there are large number of rivers here which bring the silt and deposit in the delta region. Therefore, the east coastal plains also have the alluvial soil. So these are the different types of alluvial soil we can see, and if we go to the distribution of alluvial soil in India, then we can here see the distribution of alluvial soil in India. It is right from Gujarat to Punjab to Arunachal Pradesh, and then we have the east coastal plain. This whole region has alluvial soil. So what are the source rocks? It is the river silts from Himalayas and peninsular plateau. So the rivers which flow through Himalayas, they cause weathering of the rocks in those mountains, and then they are brought by the rivers down in the plains and then deposited. So this is the source rocks, the mountains of Himalayas as well as peninsular plateau. Let's see the distribution. We can see Indo-Ganga-Brahmaputra plains, which we have seen in the northern India. Then we have Arunachal to Jammu, also Gujarat and Rajasthan. So there is a thin strip which extends till Gujarat and Rajasthan, we saw in the previous map. Then we have alluvial soil in valley of Godavari, Krishna, Kaveri and Mahanadi. The texture, if you see, then it is sandy loam to clay. So there can be very fine particles in this alluvial soil which would give it a texture of clay, or it can be slightly bigger which could make it sandy loam. Here we can see an example of alluvial soil, and the color is light grey to ash grey. It is rich in potash and lime, while it is deficient in minerals of nitrogen, phosphorus and humus, where humus is the organic components which comes from plants. The major crops which can be grown in the alluvial soil are wheat, rice, maize, sugarcane, pulses. Remember, in modern agriculture, the soil is not much of a determinant of the type of crop because of availability of different types of fertilizer. So here is the extent. Alluvial soil covers 40% of Indian soil. So out of the total soil in India, 40% is alluvial soil. It is found from Arunachal Pradesh right over here till Jammu in this corner, in the upper corner over here, and it is deposited by Indus, Ganga and Brahmaputra river. The soil also extends in Rajasthan and Gujarat through a narrow corridor. So we can see this is the narrow corridor through which it extends in Gujarat and Rajasthan. It is also found in eastern coast plains, particularly in deltas of Mahanadi, Godavari, Krishna and Kaveri rivers. So we can see that all along this eastern coastal plains we have different rivers, and within the deltas of this river we find alluvial soil. Now let's see the properties of alluvial soil. They are very fertile. They are coarser in upper stretch of Ganga plains and finer in the lower regions. So in the upper region of Ganga plains you will see that the particles are of little bigger in size, while as we go downstream the size of particle it reduces. The reason is that the bigger particles, they are heavy, So the river cannot carry them longer, while the smaller particles, they are lighter, so the rivers can carry them for larger distance. They are rich in potassium and humus, you have seen. It is poor in phosphorus and nitrogen. It has a texture of sandy loam to clay. We have already seen in the previous slide. The alluvial soil can be divided into Khaddar and Bhangar soil. So it is a new alluvial. The Khaddar is a new alluvial found in floodplains of the rivers, and Bhangar is the old alluvial found away from the river floodplains. So we will discuss what are these Khaddar and Bhangar in the upcoming slides. And the Kankar is also a characteristics of northern alluvial soils in the Indus Ganga plains. It is round calcium carbonate formations found in the Ganga plains. So we know that how the Himalayas were formed. This was the Indian plate which slowly collided with the Eurasian plate, forming the whole Himalayan system, that is the greater Himalayas, the lesser Himalayas, the Sivaliks. So all these were formed when the Indian plate it collided with the Eurasian plate. Now if you see the process of folding which occurred during the collision of these two plates, then we can see over here that they were folding like this. This is our Indian plate and this is the Eurasian plate, and we can see folding was occurring, and when folding was occurring there was this kind of foredip which was created. So each time a mountain like Greater Himalaya or Lesser Himalaya was created, we saw that on the front of it a foredip, a depression was created. Similarly, when Sivaliks were formed, which was the last Himalayas to be uplifted, we see that a foredip was created in front of the Sivaliks. Now, it could be imagined that it would look something like this. This is the foredip. So this is a depression in the front of the Sivaliks. Here there is the land which has been depressed, or which has level slightly lower than the peninsular plateau and the Himalayas. Now the rivers which originated from the Himalayas as well as from the peninsular plateau, all of them, they flow into this depression. We can see that rivers from both sides are flowing and they are bringing a lot of debris with them. We can clearly see that there are lots of debris in these rivers, and these debris, they are brought over here. When they come in the depression, the speed of the river decreases and these debris are then slowly deposited. So over the time, we will see that the height or the level of this depression will be filled and it will start to rise up. Here we can see that the debris are filling up this depression and it started to form layers. So over millions of years, this process continued. In the depression that we saw, it was filled by the silts which were brought from these rivers. So therefore, this whole region, it slowly got filled with the slit which were brought by all those rivers which we see today. Even this process continues even today. There are so many rivers which bring the silt from the Himalayas as well as peninsular plateau and they deposit in this region. And therefore, this region has alluvial soil, or the soil which is formed by the silt of the mountain debris is called alluvial soil. Now, there is one more characteristic, that when the rivers from the mountains they exit, the larger debris they get deposited over here and they form this kind of layer. And when they exit this layer, we have the plant growth. So this is called Tarai region. But here, when the river flows and the smaller silts or finer particles are distributed, so here we can see that flooding occurs regularly. So in the region where the flooding occurs, the silt is deposited every year, while this region, which is away from the floodplains of this river, we will see that here the silts are not deposited currently, but they were deposited long ago, thousands of years ago. So the silt which is around these floodplains of the river, they are renewed. They are deposited every few years. And these kind of deposits are called Khaddar deposits. So we can see that there is stark differentiation. This region has new alluvial, while this region has old alluvial soil. And this is called Khaddar deposits and these are called Bhangar deposits. There is another characteristics of the Gangetic plain soil. It is called ray or color, in which barren saline efflorescence is deposited in the Bhangar deposits. What happens that on the soil layer when water accumulates, or due to capillary action, water rises up. So water brings salts with them. But because of high heat in this region, the water evaporates, leaving behind the salt. So salt forms a layer on the soil, which is called ray or color. Here is the capillary action. We can see that this is a rock and there is water on the floor. Within 0.5 minutes, we will see that water has reached this level. In 18 minutes, it will reach here, and in 64 minutes, it reaches till here. So by this capillary action, the water slowly rises to the surface and it brings the salt from the deeper parts of the soil layer. On the surface, water evaporates, but the salt remains, forming that layer. Here is again an experiment of capillary action, where we can see that this is the soil and the water is rising in those tubes. Kankar is also a characteristic of the alluvial soil region or the Gangetic plain. Here we see that these kind of small nodules are produced by the disintegration of larger rocks. Now let's see black soil. So we can see that black soil looks something like this. If you see the extent of black soil, then it is largely in the central region or central western region, and the extent coincides with Deccan traps. The Deccan traps were created by volcanic eruption. They are formed by volcanic lava, and because of this, its extent can be seen surrounding the Deccan traps. If we remember what we have discussed in our previous video, so this our Indian plate, it was moving north before colliding to the Eurasian plate. It happened to pass over the reunion hotspot. Now this Indian plate, when it passed over this reunion hotspot, all of a sudden this hotspot became active and it started to give out volcano, as you can see over here. So this lava, it spread all around the central region of this India, and therefore we can see formation of Deccan trap. So these Deccan traps were formed because of lava emitted from the reunion hotspot, and because of this being formed of lava, it is black in its color. So the soil which is formed by weathering of the Deccan traps, it is in black in color and has distinct characteristics. So what are the characteristics? The source rock is the Deccan traps rock. Distribution: northwestern peninsular plateau. Basically it is in Maharashtra, Gujarat, Madhya Pradesh, Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu and some regions of Karnataka. The texture is clay, so it is very fine particles. Therefore, it is clay-like texture. The soil color is black. It is rich in minerals like calcium carbonate, magnesium, potassium and lime, and it is deficient in phosphoric contents. The major crops which can be grown over here are cotton and pulses. So let's see the region in detail. So black or redwood soil region, it is spread over northwestern side of Deccan Plateau. So we can see that northwestern side, which mainly includes Maharashtra, Saurashtra in Gujarat, then Malwa Plateau of MP, and then Chhattisgarh also have some regions. We also have seen that it is found in some regions of Karnataka and Andhra Pradesh. It is also found in some regions in Tamil Nadu. It extends along the Godavari and Krishna valleys. So even in the river valley of these rivers, we will see black soil. Now let's see the properties of black or redwood soil. So the black soil is also called redwood soil, and it is derived from underlying lava flows and volcanic rocks, that is the Deccan trap. It is rich in nutrients such as calcium carbonate, magnesium, potassium and lime. These soils are generally poor in phosphorus contents. We have seen it is made up of clay soil and have good water holding capacity. So see, when there is water available in the black soil, it becomes very sticky like this. But when there is dry atmosphere and water is not there, then it forms cracks like this. Because of these cracks, there is aeration, that air can go inside the soil. So air amount or airflow is increased, which is very good for the crops. So this process is called self-aeration and self-plugging. So this is whole plowing which it does itself because of cracking is called self-plowing. Now let's see the red soil. And to understand the extent of red soil, we need to understand peninsular plateau. The peninsular plateau extends right from the southern regions in Karnataka till Haryana. And here we can see that till West Bengal and even in the Meghalaya, we have this peninsular plateau. So peninsular plateau covers a very large part of our southern India as well as some part of our central and northern India. In the middle or in the western side of peninsular plateau, we have this Deccan Traps. So this region of Deccan Traps has black soil, we have already seen. Now if we see the formation of our peninsular plateau, then we can see that it is formed of several cratons. Dharwad Craton is over here in the southern side, Aravali Craton is right over here, Bundelkhand Craton is over here, and Singhbhum Craton is over here. Now remember, the peninsular plateau is mainly formed of cratons. So the soil which will be present in this region will depend on the characteristics of cratons. And here we can see how cratons are formed. So cratons are formed by hot upwelling of lava from the deep earth. We can see it is the deep earth. It could be in the lower mantle from where this hot upwelling lava comes up. It reaches the surface. It slowly cools down and it forms new lithosphere with lighter materials. And here we can see that the formation is complete and we have a craton. Now the point of showing this is that the craton is formed by the lava which comes from very deeper parts of our earth. And we know that heavier elements in our earth is located in the deeper parts. So the lava which comes from the deeper parts, it will be rich in those heavier elements. Therefore, you will see that these regions where we have these cratons, they are rich in iron ores because this lava, it comes from deeper parts. It brings iron which is in the central or deeper parts of our earth. So from there it brings the heavier elements like iron, nickel, and it forms cratons. So the soil which will be formed by disintegration of the rocks in these cratons will have higher amount of iron. And it is the presence of iron oxide which gives it the red color. So the red soil is mainly having iron oxide which gives it the red color. Here we can see in the center we have Deccan Traps, so these regions have black soil. But other regions where we have cratons, we will see that all those regions have red soil. Here in the northern part, the alluvial soil has extended over the red soil and somewhat mixture can be seen, but mostly here it is dominated by alluvial soil because alluvial soil was formed later than the formation of these cratons. Therefore, the red soil has gone deep below the alluvial soil. So in these regions you will see mostly alluvial soil at the top, but here we have mostly red soil. So let's see the characteristics of red soil. It is crystalline igneous rocks in low rainfall region. Remember, it is in low rainfall region because if it is high rainfall region, then it will form laterite soil. It forms granites, gneisses and metamorphic rocks. So from these rocks, generally red soil is derived. The distribution can be seen in east and southern peninsular plateau. Even in the northern, in some parts we can see red soil. It is seen in southern parts of Middle Ganga plain in UP and MP. It is seen in the Piedmont zone of Western Ghats. So on the Piedmont zone, that is just on the base of the Western Ghats, we will see red soil. The texture is sandy clay to loam. So it can have finer particles, but they are not like clay, they are slightly bigger. Therefore, sandy clay and to loam. So it can have a little higher size of particles compared to the black soil. It is red due to iron oxide and it is yellow when it is hydrated. It is deficient in minerals like nitrogen, phosphorus and humus. So we can see the region, the total extent of red soil is 18.5% of the total land area of India. It is found in peninsular plateaus, eastern and southern regions, southern parts of Middle Ganga plain and Piedmont zone of Western Ghats. It is found in parts of Odisha, Chhattisgarh, West Bengal, Maharashtra, southern Karnataka, Tamil Nadu and Madhya Pradesh. Now let's see the properties of red or yellow soil. Yellow we have seen because when it is hydrated it becomes yellow. So red soil develops on crystalline igneous rocks in areas of low rainfall. Crystalline igneous rocks. So this is the rocks which come from the cratons. Red is colored due to diffusion of iron in crystalline and metamorphic rocks. So because the lava which came from the deeper parts, it has higher amount of iron, the iron got diffused in these rocks. It looks yellow when it occurs in a hydrated form. It is deficient in nitrogen, phosphorus and humus. We have already seen in previous slide. It is porous and airy. However, it needs irrigation for cultivation, and in some regions it shows intense leaching. So if there is higher amount of rainfall in a region, then it will show leaching. It occurs because if there is higher rainfall, then water-soluble elements are removed from the soil, leaving behind iron and aluminum compounds. Now let's see laterite soil. If we see the extent of laterite soil, then we can see in this map the laterite soil is indicated by this light pink color. And it is found in the Western Ghats. We can see that there is a very long stretch of the region in Western Ghats which has laterite soil. Then in Tamil Nadu, we have laterite soil in Aravali. Then in Odisha and West Bengal also we see significant amount of laterite soil. Then in Meghalaya as well as Assam and Tripura region has laterite soil. Now one of the major factors forming laterite soil are heavy amount of rainfall and humidity in that region. Now the process by which soil is converted to laterite soil is called laterization. It is very similar to leaching process. Now what happens because of warm and humid climate, there is large amount of water which is accumulated on the surface. The elements or compounds which are water soluble, they dissolve in the water, and as the water moves in the deeper parts of the soil layers and reaches the ground table, so the compounds which are soluble in water, they are also removed from the soil layers. But elements like iron and aluminum, which are not very easily soluble in water, they remain. And therefore, over the time, this soil will have higher amount of iron and aluminum compounds. Therefore, you will see that bauxite ore is mainly seen in these kind of soils because over a long time laterization accumulates the amount of aluminum. Similarly, because of high amount of iron in these soils, we will see its reddish or brown color. Here we can see the compounds which are soluble in water and they are removed with the water. So we have sodium, we have magnesium, we have calcium, potassium. So all of these compounds are removed from the soil because they are soluble in water. But iron and aluminum, they form compounds which are not soluble and they remain and they just get accumulated in this soil. Therefore, laterite soil has lesser nutrients other than aluminum and iron. So it is a nutrient deficit soil. Moreover, this sodium, magnesium, calcium, they are all salt forming compounds. So because they are removed, the soil becomes acidic in nature. Remember, the presence of salt gives it basic or alkaline nature. But because they are removed, the soil becomes acidic. So here are the laterite deposits or laterization process. So laterite deposits are a type of weathering product that forms in tropical and subtropical regions through process of laterization. Why tropical and subtropical? Because there is high humidity and large amount of precipitation. Laterization involves leaching of silica and other soluble materials from the rock. We have seen that silica, that is SiO2, as well as other elements like sodium, potassium, they get dissolved in water and it is removed, leaving behind a residual concentration of iron and aluminum oxides. So because of this, we see bauxite ore is generally found in laterite soil. The color, it gets red or brown, it is due to the presence of iron oxides. And it has low nutrient content because most of the nutrients are removed by the laterization process which we saw in the previous slide. Now if we see the regions having this laterite soil, we will see here is our Western Ghats. And we can see that this region has very high amount of rainfall all along the Western Ghats. So because of the high amount of rainfall and humidity in this region, we see laterite soil. Similarly here in Tamil Nadu, we can see that there is this portion where there is higher amount of rainfall. Remember, here rainfall occurs in December and it occurs because of the returning monsoon winds which pick up water from the Bay of Bengal. So because of that also the higher amount of rainfall occurs over here and we get laterite soil. Here there are Aravallis, and these Aravallis, they block the clouds and cause heavier rainfall compared to other regions of Rajasthan. Thus, we see that here we have laterite soil. In these regions of Odisha and West Bengal, we see that a lot of winds which come from Bay of Bengal, they carry moisture and they cause rainfall in this region. This region also has higher amount of rainfall compared to other regions. So here also we see that laterite soil is there, and then we know that in northeast there is very heavy rainfall. So mainly in the Meghalaya and this Tripura or Assam region we see laterite soil. Let's see the characteristics of laterite soil. It is formed by leaching of regional rock. Leaching is the process by which water-soluble elements are removed by the water which is moving deeper in the soil layer. Distribution: high rainfall regions of peninsular plateau, Karnataka, Kerala, Tamil Nadu, Madhya Pradesh also has some regions, Odisha, Assam. We've already seen the regions where we have high amount of laterite soil. It is acidic in nature. It is reddish or brown in color. It is rich in iron oxide and potash. Because both of them do not dissolve in water. It also has higher amount of aluminium. It is deficient in minerals like organic matter, that is humus because it is removed, then nitrogen, phosphate, calcium because they easily dissolve in water. It is good for tea, coffee crops. Tree crops like cashew nut are also very well developed in laterite soil. Now let's see the properties. The laterite word is derived from the Latin word later, which means brick. So remember, laterite soil is also used for brick making. It develops under tropical and subtropical climate with alternate wet and dry season. This tropical and subtropical season, it gives it the humidity as well as sufficient amount of moisture. It is formed by intense leaching due to heavy rain. We have already seen what leaching means. The elements which are soluble in water, they are removed because of water percolation in the deeper layers of soil. Laterite soils are mostly deep to very deep acidic. So they are acidic in nature. Their pH is generally less than 6. It is deficient in organic matter. Organic matter are basically the litters of the trees, the humus which is formed on the topsoil. Then it is also deficient in nitrogen, phosphate and calcium because all of them dissolve in water. It is rich in iron oxide and potash. It is good for tea, coffee and cashew nuts. We have already seen this in previous slide. It is low in fertility, obviously because there is less amount of nutrients. All the nutrients are removed. Laterite soil hardens rapidly and irreversibly on exposure to air, and therefore it is used in brick making. If you see the region, then almost 3.7% of total area of India is covered by laterite soil. It occurs mostly in southern states, mostly in Western Ghats region of Maharashtra, as well as we see in Eastern Ghats in Odisha. It occurs in some parts of West Bengal and Northeast regions, and it is found in these states which we have already discussed. Now let's see arid or desert soil. Now remember, most of the books, they only discuss about the Thar desert as arid soil. However, there are some other references which even include the Run of Kutch in arid or desert soil. So the Thar desert has this kind of sand, while when we come to Run of Kutch, it has white sand. So this is a little distinction between the two sands formed in these regions. So here we see that the arid climate is seen, or the arid soil is seen in the western part of Rajasthan and the Kutch region of Gujarat. Some books will only show the western part of Rajasthan and not the Kutch region. Thar desert has this kind of color. This is the sand is of this slightly red or brown colored, while the Run of Kutch has the white colored sand. So let's see the source rock, weathering of regional rocks and coastal sand. Rajasthan as well as Kutch was submerged under ocean recently in history, and because of this we see higher salt content in the sand over here, and also the white color sand of Kutch is because of it was submerged under ocean. Distribution: Western Rajasthan and Run of Kutch. Then the texture is sandy to gravelly, so the particles are slightly higher. They are not as fine as the alluvial or the black soil. The color is red to brown. It is white in Run of Kutch. They are rich in phosphate or iron. They are deficient in minerals like moisture, humus and nitrogen. And they are very good for bajra and pulses as well as guar gum, which is used in hydraulic fracturing. So let's see the properties of arid desert. We have already seen most of them. It has a color from red to brown. It is generally sandy in texture and saline in nature. Remember, they have very high salinity, and that is why they are used for salt forming. Water is collected and then water is evaporated, which gives the salt. This salt forming occurs both in Run of Kutch as well as in the Thar desert, mostly in the Sambar lake. Due to dry climate, high temperature, evaporation is fast and the soil lacks organic matter and moisture, which is the raw material for humus. So basically, because of heavier evaporation, there is lack of humus in this region. The lower horizons of soil are occupied by conker because of the increasing calcium content downwards. So we have already seen that conker is a characteristics of the Indo-Gangetic plain, where there are these small round granules or nodules which are seen in the sand. So it is found mainly because of higher calcium content, and the amount of calcium content increases as we go deeper. So large amount of conker layers can be seen in those regions. These soil can be used after proper irrigation. So they are cultivation, but they require higher amount of irrigation. And that is why we see that a lot of canals have been developed in Rajasthan. Indira Gandhi Canal or Rajasthan Canal is one example of that. The whole India, if we see, then 4.42% of the land is covered by arid desert, and it is found in western Rajasthan and Kutch region of Gujarat. Now let's see saline and alkaline soil. So here we can see an example of saline and alkaline soil, where we see that there is this salt layer on top of the soil. Let's see the characteristics of saline or alkaline soil. So the saline and alkaline soil is also called Usar, Reh, Kallar, Chapa, Takkar, Thur and Kari. So these are various names of saline soils which are called in different regions. The source rock of saline soil is regions with high evaporation and low drainage. Whenever there is a basin or there is a depression, water will collect. Now this water evaporates and leaves behind salts. Over irrigation is also a cause, because when we give large amount of water like in rice farming or paddy farming, so the water over the time will evaporate and leaving behind salts. Tidal waters are also cause of saline and alkaline soils, because it will bring the sea water in the land, and when the water will evaporate, it will leave behind large amount of salts. Distribution mainly Kutch region of Gujarat, Sundarban in West Bengal, other over irrigated regions of Punjab and Haryana. So here we can see that it is mainly because of ocean. This is the tidal region. Here there was ocean in the past, and here we have over irrigation. The texture is sandy to loamy, and it is rich in minerals. If it is saline soil, then salts of chlorides and sulfates are of higher amount, and if it is an alkaline soil, then sodium is in higher amount. It is deficient in nitrogen and calcium, and if you see the crops which grow here, then mangroves crops are best suited, but it also requires the marshy climate of marshy environment. Then we have coconut trees, and halophytes are also plants which are well adapted for saline ecosystem. Now let's try to understand what is the difference between saline, alkaline and sodic soil. Sometimes you will see these terms. We generally use them as one, but they have different meanings. Alkaline and sodic soil are one and the same, but saline soil is slightly different from alkaline soil. What is the difference? If you see the pH, the pH of saline soil is less than 8.5 and greater than 7. So it is this range, while for alkaline soil, it is more basic, it is above 8.5. Soluble salts, neutral soluble salts, primarily chlorides and sulfates. It contains sodium carbonate. So sodium is in higher amount in alkaline soil. That is why it is called sodic soil. Electrical conductivity, high compared to alkaline soil. By here we have low conductivity. Exchangeable sodium percentage. So here the sodium percentage is less, here it is higher. If you see the appearance, then it has a white crust on the surface due to salt efflorescence. So because of salt deposition on the top of the sand, you will see a white color. However, it can have a greasy or sleek appearance when wet. So one of the causes of salination of a soil is capillary action. We have seen over irrigation, but capillary action also helps in salination. The water from the ground, it will rise up by the capillary action. Here we can see that water is on the ground and it is rising up in these rocks. Here in 0.5 minutes it has reached over here, then in 18 minutes it has reached over here, and here in 64 minutes it has reached over here. So by similar process in the fields, water from the groundwater will rise up to the surface. It will bring all the soluble salts to the surface, and on the surface the water will evaporate, leaving behind the salts. That is how salination occurs. Here we have already seen that in the lab this is the soil, and we can see that water is rising in the capillaries. This is a demonstration of the capillary action, how water comes to the surface of soil. Now here we can see that when there is irrigation, water which has salts, whenever we provide water by irrigation, it also contains soluble salt. So that water will go in the deeper parts of the soil. Capillary action brings back that salts on the surface. Evaporation removes the water and only salt remains, creating a layer in the topsoil. Here is an example of over irrigation. See, we have water and salt. So when we are providing irrigation, there is water and salt, but when the water evaporates, it leaves behind a layer of salt, thus creating a saline soil. Here we have already seen this image where there is this thin layer of salt on the surface of soil. So this is because of the accumulation of salt on the surface of soil. So let's see the process of formation. Mainly one, capillary action of water, evaporation of water on surface. Water from lower layers of soil rise up, along with the water, salts also rise up. On surface, water evaporates, salts accumulate, and therefore we see white encrustations on the surface. That is the white salty layer on the surface of the soil. Over irrigation, we have already seen, on surface water evaporates, salts accumulate, again this white layer of soil is seen. So these are the two main mechanisms due to which salination of soil occurs. They are also called ray, usar, color, rakhar, thur, and sopan. We have discussed, formed in regions with dry climate and poor drainage. Dry climate because more evaporation, poor drainage because water accumulates. Poor drainage causes accumulation of water, dry climate causes evaporation, leaving behind salts. High amounts of salts of sodium, potassium, and magnesium are found. Texture we have seen, scented loam, it is deficient in calcium and nitrogen. And adding lime, remember, lime helps reduction of salinity. Now let's see peaty soil. So we have seen earlier how coal is formed. So in the process of formation of coal, we first have peat formation. So that peat is very much similar to this peaty soil. However, there is less time and for which that layer has been suppressed under pressure. So let's see the formation of peaty soil, and we can see this is how the peaty soil looks like. Here we can see the process of formation of peaty soil. Water accumulation in depression. So these are the depressions where water accumulates. Stage 2, we see that marsh vegetation develops in this water which has been accumulated. Over the time, this vegetation will die, the litters will fall, and they will be submerged in this water. But because in the water there is deficiency of oxygen, slow anaerobic decomposition occurs, and we see that the plants are not fully decomposed. Over the time, there will be the peaty soil which will be formed, and it will have higher undecomposed parts or partially decomposed parts of the plants, and that kind of soil is called peaty soil. Let's see the characteristics. It is formed due to waterlogging and anaerobic decomposition of plants or vegetations. Distribution regions with high rainfall and high humidity. Because of high rainfall, we see high water is accumulated, and because of high humidity, evaporation is less. Tarai regions of Uttaranchal, Bihar, West Bengal, Assam, Himachal Pradesh, and even in Odisha and Tamil Nadu, we find the peaty soil. The color is generally black or brown. It is rich in humus and organic content because it has already undecomposed parts of vegetation. It is very useful for rice cultivation. Now let's see the process of peat soil formation, which we have already seen in the image. So it is formed due to accumulation and decomposition of organic materials under waterlogged condition with a lack of oxygen. So because of waterlogged condition, oxygen cannot reach the parts or the dead parts of the vegetation, and therefore they are partially decomposed. High organic content is there in the peaty soil, typically above 75%, and their color could be dark brown to black color with a spongy consistency. So they are spongy like. It is formed in marshy and swampy region, which we see due to waterlogging, anaerobic decomposition occurs. Regions of high rainfall and low evaporation, these are the regions we have seen, rich in humus and organic component. Iron is also present in slightly higher amount, generally alkaline, but can be acidic. So it can be alkaline or acidic, but generally it is alkaline in nature. Now let's see the mountain soil. The mountain soil is generally seen in the mountainous regions where we have forests or the ice caps. Now these kind of soils are mainly found because of leaching process. In the forests, in the mountains, we see that there is heavy precipitation but less evaporation. So water accumulates elements or compounds that dissolve in the water and they are removed. So this transportation of compounds that we see here, these yellow dots which are moving down with the water, is called alluviation. While when they are accumulating in a deeper layer, it is called illuviation. So from the topsoil or the upper layers, the nutrients are removed and they are taken to the deeper parts. So this is called leaching. Leaching seen in regions having high rainfall and humidity. So basically in the regions where there is heavy rainfall in the mountains, and moreover snow caps where the snow melts, so it provides sufficient amount of water. And remember, this water does not evaporate easily because of low sunlight coming to that region. So the excess water, when moves down in soil layer, it removes water soluble elements, nutrients from the surface. Elements are deposited in deeper layers. This is called illuviation. The movement is called alluviation. Leaching removes base cations like calcium, magnesium and potassium. Therefore, it makes the soil acidic. Similar like laterization. We have seen similar process in laterite soil, that the soil becomes acidic because these compounds which are soluble in water are removed. So here we can see this is the mountain, a large amount of rainfall occurs and evaporation is less. Therefore, we see mountainous soil over here which is highly leached. And similarly, when the snow melts, it also provides large amount of water which causes leaching, thus converting it into mountainous soil. Here are some of the properties. It is found in forest area with sufficient rainfall, found in forest of Himalayas, Sahyadris, Western Ghats, both of these are same. Tarai region, and then they are dark brown in color. They are seen in upper slopes where they are coarse grained and subject to erosion and denudation. So when they are on the upper slopes, they are coarse grained, more coarser than in the lower region. Less time for weathering is there because they are quickly transported from the upper slopes. Lower slopes, they are loamy and silty. They are slightly less coarse. They have smaller particles because of sufficient weathering that occurs over here. Snow-bound areas of Himalayas also have acidic and low humus content. So acidic because leaching occurs because of melting of snow. Lower valley soil is fertile and rich in organic matter. It is poor in potash, phosphorus and lime. Soil erosion is a major problem in these areas. Here we can see the extent of the mountain soil. It is mainly in the northern Himalayas, but in Sahyadris, in Western Ghats, as well as in certain regions of Eastern Ghats also we see the mountain soil. With this, we will conclude our video on types of soil in India. I hope you liked it. If you have liked it, then do subscribe to the channel and share it with your friends. If you like what we are doing, then you can support us by using the Paytm ID. Thanks for watching the video.